In the next presentation, Rajesh Kuppuswamy, Life Sciences and Healthcare Industry Advisor, SAP India, will share his knowledge on building competitive compliance in the industry. Over to you, Mr. Kuppuswamy.
Building competitive compliance in pharma is a short presentation on SAP's take on a subject that is and should be of paramount relevance to the industry. How to build capabilities to ensure serviceability, that is, ensuring availability of quality drug products at the right time to those in need. My name is Rajesh Kuppuswamy. I am the Health Sciences Advisor at SAP India. I appreciate your time and interest in the topic. Now, despite advances in technology and modern medicine, the reality is that there is a tremendous shortage of drugs globally. This is, in fact, avoidable, if not fully, at least to a significant extent. As you can see from the chart shown on the screen, about 2/3 of shortages are caused due to quality-related issues, which should be addressable. However, the way the global pharmaceutical ecosystem operates today, the ecosystem that particularly includes the pharmaceutical industry, payers, and regulators, it has not been set up for success. In a competitive environment, lack of incentives to reward a quality culture seems to impact investment in quality. We can look at quality and compliance under two broad categories. The first one being sourcing, making, and releasing products, which is essentially manufacturing and testing. And then the next one would be distribution of products, which is the supply chain part, and I'll come to that in a moment. So let's start with the first one, manufacturing and testing. Examination of deficiencies for a period of about a year from 2018 to 19, as identified by violation categories, resulting in the issuance of 483 by the US FDA, clearly shows that many such could have been avoided. The industry can go a long way by adhering to a few principles, ensuring the processes are well understood, scientifically sound, and are documented. Processes are executed as they are documented. Now, coming to distribution, we are addressing only the topic of prevention of counterfeits entry into the supply chain. We are not going into the aspects related to efficiencies. The problem of counterfeits is huge. Estimates of the counterfeit business range from about $160 billion to even over $220 billion by some estimates. It has grave impact on the society with about 1 million deaths, not to mention potential debilitating disabilities, economic hardships, etc. US and European regulatory authorities are trying to address the issue, but pace of imposition of these regulations does have a lot of room for improvement. As briefly mentioned, the impact of substandard quality is enormous. Patients are not provided timely care, they are not provided appropriate care. And it's also alarming to note the problem of drug shortages is significantly increasing in the last year. The impact is actually being felt across therapeutic areas, be it, say, in life-threatening diseases such as cancer, chronic diseases such as hypertension, mental health-related diseases such as depression are just a few examples. Technology adoption in the pharmaceutical industry has often been the result of imposition of such by regulators. Concerns have been raised on why adhering to quality standards are difficult. Most of the difficulties articulated pertain to the ability to access relevant data and perform analysis to understand causality. While many of these concerns may have been valid about a decade or two ago, technological advancement provides us an opportunity to run continuous and connected systems with unparalleled computing power. The industry is actually at a confluence of the appropriate elements to incentivize quality. There is a desperate need for quality, and then there are means to gather required data and derive insights from the same. There is also the likely enforcement from global regulatory agencies. As such, the ICH Q12 guidelines for technical and regulatory considerations for pharma products lifecycle development is at various stages of implementation across the world. While it is in the process of implementation by regulatory agencies in a few countries, there are a few, such as Brazil and Korea, where it is yet to be implemented. But in places like Europe, US, Japan, and China, it is already in the process of implementation. A key component of this guideline is the continual improvement in the biopharmaceutical sector and strengthening quality assurance and reliability of product supply, the topic that is what we are discussing now. In brief, there is sufficient cause for urgency to ensure quality standards are raised in the industry. Those adopting faster and better will have an edge over the rest. That we have spoken about the necessity to invest in quality, let's now go into execution. This is an SAP's point of view on how execution can be made successful. The first step in executing such a comprehensive quality program is identification of business capabilities that will have an impact on quality. The next step is to identify the nodes of vulnerability in such processes, which could potentially impact serviceability. Understanding the extent of variations is critical. Once the problem statement is defined, the next step is strategizing the solution. And finally, it is the execution of the solution. This may be the most difficult step due to multiple reasons, some of which we saw earlier: aging systems, coordination across multiple stakeholders, disparity in technology investment across the ecosystem, to name a few. Therefore, it is imperative to have the foresight early on and involve the partners in the ecosystem at the outset. The best and well laid out plans are tested only when it is put into practice, so there will always be opportunities to learn and improve. In summary, the approach to quality needs to be a holistic one with considerations across development, manufacturing, and the end-to-end supply chain. Only then serviceability is fully addressed and drug shortages will decrease. So, as discussed earlier, the success of an organization depends predominantly on its ability to harness data for better insights and decision making. The situation typically today is that only expert users can make extracts from company systems, and then they are pretty much on their own. They end up using disk shares and spreadsheet programs to combine data and email items back and forth. The resulting problems are well quantified by the following figures. When it comes to data management, 74% of enterprises say that data landscape is so complex that it limits their agility. As it pertains to analytics, 67% of companies fail to become insight-driven companies. When it comes to business technology platform, 55% of organizations rate their alignment between IT and business as moderate or even worse. And finally, not to forget the intelligent technologies piece, 64% of companies struggle to keep up with executing on the internal demand for predictive analytics, machine learning, etc. What is more important is you are really limited by how you can work because one is not able to combine third-party data because it is typically a manual process and different users may have different interpretations of the data. And as we all know, spreadsheets tend to age, and before one knows it, everything is out of sync and no one has a single version of the truth from the data. The fundamental problem is that there is not a cohesive view and understanding from a data perspective of whatever data that is presented. Now, this is further exacerbated by the fact that the shop floor operator or supervisor may not be trained or enabled to handle data, and they are typically at the mercy of the quote unquote data experts. So when it comes to data handling and interpretation, without enablement of those who understand and execute the processes, organizations typically are not in a position to succeed. Therefore, we recommend empowerment of business users for prototyping so that the learning from data analysis is fully contextualized for the functional area and for the process. A unified data platform is typically designed for businesses and IT organizations to collaborate. And let's see what are the benefits typically one can get from this. Modern user experience, which is tailored for multiple personas, assigning users and configuring what we call business spaces, which has the elasticity to accommodate the ever-changing workloads, or for that matter, ever-changing types of analyses to be performed. The ability to provide instant access to application data via pre-built extractors so that there is no lag. There are adapters for various source systems, and there is replication with essentially no configuration required for that. And then there is a central repository featuring a rich set of business semantics as foundation to enable the holistic data to value stream within the company. If one has this basic fundamental setup, the business feels typically empowered. They are able to analyze data and build models which can be reused. Now, this is actually possible because the process expert is enabled. He is or she is not relying on somebody to do the analysis for him. They don't really need to go to a data scientist for every analysis that they need to perform. And one is able to extend global models with additional business semantics as required. And finally, one is able to blend their own data, which enables them to contextualize any pre-established models for their particular scenario, and then derive insights from that for further enhancement and for further uh, modernizing their processes. So I used the word space in just a minute or so ago. At the heart of this business empowerment and collaboration is the concept of what we call spaces. For business users, these spaces are nothing but dedicated working spaces or areas where they can where they can model and analyze data. For IT, spaces typically consist of compute and storage resources that can be allocated for a specific project or a team. Now, each space is isolated from the others and it has its own storage and compute resources and ability to connect users. So what does a business user typically gain from these spaces? If one is a manager in a function, in a manufacturing function, say, for example, his or her space can be connected to data from an on-premise enterprise system, and then he's or she is able to add data from the cloud, say, for example, from their own company cloud or from external sources such as Twitter data by just simple few clicks, by clicking the relevant resources from a catalog that is available to them. Then they can use graphic modeling to add semantics to the data and establish whatever relationships exist. This could then be further leveraged with out-of-the-box analytics that is provided by SAP. Now, if this output is shared with everyone who is part of, just through a simple click of a button, who is part of the space, then everyone has a single view of the analysis and they can build on it, or they can point to any shortcomings and try to overcome those through their own further interpretation and analysis. This saves a lot of time and a lot of effort compared to what was the previous way of working, which is a person does his or her analysis and then emails the results without the other party being able to see what went into the analysis. This also brings me to the point for how or what contribution IT needs to make. They are essentially entrusted with provisioning and monitoring spaces. From a technology standpoint, these spaces are supposed to be elastic to enable computing and storage resources that are allocated based on the need of a project or a team. And these spaces are typically decoupled and insulated from each other. And it is possible to monitor resource usage for each space individually and have visibility of consumption compared to compared to plan. And then they can have full transparency and accountability. It's also possible to change the resources associated with each space, and therefore provisioning and deprovisioning actually becomes very simple. So in summary, there is a unified data platform for collaboration that converges the team and productivity grows exponentially. This is what we have been able to achieve as part of a program that we undertook for a client. Now, in the manufacturing organization of the client. Now, we have spoken about how to use data, but let's take a moment to look at the different types of systems which store data. Here we have typically three types of systems: the system of record, the system of differentiation, and the system of innovation. In this example, for manufacturing function, ERP can serve as the system of record. Any custom-built apps and user interfaces could act as systems of differentiation, and the intelligence suite could serve as the system of innovation. By definition, since the systems of record typically do not change much over time, it is critical to build the foundation with clean and usable data in the systems of record. Systems of differentiation and systems of innovation could be built by the users within their spaces. Now, in a manufacturing setup for our client, we strengthen the systems of record to enable data acquisition and provide one version of the truth of the data. With systems of differentiation, the users were enabled to perform minimal analytics to run day-to-day operations and harmonize processes across networks. With systems of intelligence, predictive analytics and simulation of potential performance and what-if scenarios were enabled. Now, from an organization setup, we looked at spaces for different user groups. One was just for the manufacturing function alone. One was for manufacturing and allied functions, such as supply chain, procurement, etc. And then the other one was for more of a management need, the executive management need, where they could essentially look at performance across sites and the analysis and the kind of insights that they required was not at the operational level, but more at a strategic level. So we started with quality in manufacturing and supply chain. I just went through an example of how we enabled building the foundation and essentially working towards transformation from a manufacturing perspective. Now let's go into the supply chain aspect. I want to leave you with a short video of an example of SAP's partnership with the industry in addressing quality. There's an example of how we partnered with Zulik Pharma in their distribution efforts. The solution we provided is simple enough for the patient or caregiver or pharmacist to use, while ensuring and adhering to data security aspects. Thank you. I'm happy and look forward to continue the association and can be reached at my SAP email at rajesh.kuppuswamy@sap.com. Now, over to the video.
Fake medicines have become a multi-billion-dollar trade with a higher profit margin than heroin trafficking. Worldwide sales of counterfeit drugs could top $75 billion this year, a 90% rise in 5 years. Today, Asia accounts for the biggest share of the trade, with patients' health put at risk. Now big healthcare corporations like Zulik Pharma are fighting back.
According to the World Health Organization, up to 1 million people die every year because they've inadvertently taken fake medicines.
Zulik Pharma, one of the largest healthcare groups in Asia, partnered with SAP to develop a mobile application-based solution which uses blockchain technology to detect fake products.
We've developed a product that we call Easy Tracker, which is built entirely on SAP technology. We use SAP blockchain as a service to empower the end patient and healthcare practitioners to be able to tell the material provenance of a drug that's passed through the Zulik supply chain.
A consumer can use the app to scan the barcode on a medicine she received. In a split second, the Easy Tracker tells her if the medicine is genuine and where it was manufactured, giving the patient power, insight, and security.
Well, it's really great to be able to check the authenticity of a medicine on my own, and it's really easy to use. It just takes 2 clicks to get to the information that I need about the medicine.
The Zulik Pharma distribution network covers some 350,000 clinics and pharmacies in even the most remote areas of Asia. With traditional supply chains, it would be almost impossible or very time-consuming to detect fake medicines.
Since we've introduced the technology, we're now in a position to be able to check very quickly whether a medicine is indeed authentic, whether it's been traded legally in the right country where it's supposed to be, and we're able to give the patient comfort, give the healthcare professional comfort that the medicines they're using are genuine.
The Easy Tracker was built on the SAP Cloud Platform using blockchain technology and data stored in the company's SAP HANA backbone.
Allowing these participants to share data in a compliant, in a safe way that still maintains their control over their own data really expedites that sharing of information. So we're going down from the 2 to 3 months to virtually instantaneous information transfer.
With Easy Tracker, manufacturers, governments, and nonprofit organizations have a powerful new tool to fight the problem of fake drugs.
We hope to give patients the knowledge and confidence that the drugs and vaccines they are using are totally safe. With the help of SAP, Zurich Pharma is using technology to save lives every day.
Thank you, Mr. Kuppuswamy, for your valuable time and inputs. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make this event successful by sharing event highlights on social media using the hashtag ETIPWS. Stay tuned for the next session.